Hi there, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Out of Bounds. I'm John Luck with Mary Evers, and we can finally talk about baseball here as the Red Sox have taken to the field at Fenway Park and Boston College for summer camp. Now, we aren't braiding friendship
Oh,
bracelets or
wow.
singing Kumbaya or making s'mores or anything like that, but nonetheless, the Red Sox have gone onto the field, but there is some news to talk about regarding COVID-19 and the Red Sox. But um, first, we'll get to summer camp. What have you seen from the Red Sox in summer camp so far?
Um, n- Not much, I guess. They're having BP, they're having live BP, which if anyone saw what happened at the Yankees live BP, that always freaks me out. I hate when they just throw their actual pitchers sans net in front of a batting practice. That bothers me. And the Yankees are a prime example, is why it should bother everyone. But I guess they have to catch up quickly. So this is the world that we're living in. I mean, I the problem with baseball training is that you can never actually tell if things are going well or not, because it's not like we're seeing everything. We're just seeing what the Red Sox are sending us. And they're not going to send us JD Martinez whiffing on 4 consecutive at bats. Like, so I can't, they can still hit the ball. I assume they can still throw the ball. So I guess that's half the battle right there.
Well, especially with the Red Sox, as their opening day starter right now, it could be in question.
No.
Eduardo Rodriguez has tested positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
He is improving as of this taping, but according to Red Sox manager Ron Renick, he's still not 100%. Bobby Dalbec has also tested positive for COVID-19. He's asymptomatic. There are a couple of other cases as well. Darwinson Hernandez and Josh Taylor tested positive. They weren't with the team.
Yeah.
Rodriguez is still in Florida, so he hasn't been with the team as well. But there was talk of a potential positive test for Rafael Devers. So they moved Devers to BC, where the Red Sox are also training as well. And he
Yeah.
has 3 negative tests. So it looks like he's starting to make his way back to the main practice site.
The
But
the stuff with Devers got so out of hand so quickly because it was someone from the Herald, I think, reported that he was just super out of shape and that's why they sent him to be by himself. And then the Red Sox were like, no, he probably had the coronavirus, or he may have had the coronavirus, and they tested him 3 times, which I guess false positive and negatives are a thing, but like 3 times is a bit excessive to have that thing stuck up your nose.
well, this is what players
I
again.
That was like the weirdest, like 24-minute. It wasn't even 24 hours. It was like 1 second he was overweight, and 2 seconds later he was positive for COVID-19, which he never was anyways. And the Red Sox were posting videos of him back at Fenway Park as of yesterday. So clearly it wasn't a huge deal. I don't know what's going on.
If you want overweight, look at Pablo Sandoval, okay?
That was so bad. Oh, we're still paying him.
Bobby Bonilla, Manny Ramirez. I
Oh,
mean, bad
Ruby
long
Castillo,
contracts.
Dustin Pedroia. Let's
Yep.
add him to the list. That guy. I forgot about him for like a solid 6 months. Someone brought it up on Twitter yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, he still exists.
So let's talk about Ron Renick on Erod starting on opening day. This was a press conference back on the 7th. Renick said he wants to be ready, but we'll have to see how it goes. The medical team will follow him, give him instructions basically on how to stay in shape, but it just depends on how long this thing goes. We can get the negative test from him and when he can get up here and join us.
Right.
Right now, they're starting to stretch out Martin Perez to maybe start on opening day. You also have Nathan Eovaldi, but
Right.
as far as Erod goes, with coronavirus, from what we know, we don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
This can flare up and go down, and you can have waves as far as your personal health goes. And this is something that bears watching
Right.
through this season, if there is a season.
And not only that, if he's like actually has all these symptoms, I'm assuming he's not working out through this because he shouldn't be if he's got this virus, and because it attacks your breathing, I wouldn't want him to strain himself. So even if he's fine by the time opening day comes, how much workout has he actually gotten in? I would not start him opening day, as much as it saddens me because he's probably the only reliable pitcher we have right now. But that's besides the point.
That's another question for probably later on in the show. Um, there's been a lot of COVID tests distributed in baseball. There have been a few positive tests compared to when you think about how many players are actually in Major League Baseball. Really, it ranges anywhere from 1 to 4 positive tests as far as players go. There are some exceptions. The Phillies had 7 players and 5 staff members. But oddly enough, teams are still waiting for the initial test to come back as of this taping. Now, by the time you watch this, maybe we'll hear more about this. But as of now, Oakland, St. Louis, and Washington aren't practicing, and they haven't practiced in summer camp because they haven't been able to get their test back from the MLB lab in Utah. And if you get to the season and you're still waiting for tests to come back, this happens every other day. Right now, you're talking about maybe a 5 to 10 day turnaround period.
Right.
And at that point, just on the field, your season could be blown up right there.
Right. And then the Nationals are playing opening day. Those are your reigning World Series champions that you want to have the best game back from all of this against the Yankees opening day, and they haven't gotten their tests back. The MLB has mishandled this so much. There was another team, I can't remember what it was, that they had to shut down because their testers just simply didn't show up. They didn't get the tests to begin with. So it's like there's no rhyme or reason to what teams are getting things and what teams are not getting things and what teams are getting results back and what teams are not. Like, there's no consistency to this whatsoever. And I don't know if it's because of the states that they're in and maybe they have different regulations, but so they're sending all these tests to one singular lab in Utah.
Right. From what I'm reading, this is all going to an MLB basically sponsored lab, if you will.
Right.
That's in Utah.
So you would think that Oakland, being closer to Utah than Massachusetts is, they'd get their tests back already, because the Red Sox apparently have tested Rafi Devers 3 times and gotten them all back already. How is that a thing? And it seems like the MLB is rigging this somehow, but the actual teams that are getting, I guess getting 3 tests for 1 player is a boost. The MLB is terrible. This is nothing makes sense.
Here's the interesting thing. When the NBA initially went on its break, they had the coronavirus test administered to Oklahoma City and Utah. That was a big game where this really sparked the NBA shutting down.
Right.
And when these tests were administered in Oklahoma, just the staffs on the Jazz and the Thunder, they took up more than half the coronavirus tests. And Adam Silver said that when we come back, we don't want to take tests away from, the general public.
Right.
You look at Arizona right now, that's a hot spot. Florida is a hot spot. They had 10,000 tests or 10,000 positive cases of COVID a day. Yeah. Arizona, you're having cars running out of gas because they're waiting for 6 or 7 hours just to get a test.
Right.
And you're having these players that are getting tested, in Devers' case, 3 times a day. Now, granted, maybe it's just Massachusetts stepping up and helping out the Red Sox.
It's possible, yeah.
But players are opting out, and these are fairly high-profile players opting out.
Yeah.
Ryan Zimmerman of the Nationals, Joe Ross of the Nationals, Wellington Castillo of the Nationals have all opted out. Nick Markakis of the Braves has opted out. David Price of the Dodgers obviously has opted out. I can't fault any of these players and any player in any of the 4 sports from opting out of their season, because the sport as a whole has just screwed up this coronavirus testing for players.
Yeah, you can't be mad at these people. And someone was complaining about, Mike Trout. He gets paid all this money, hasn't won anything, and I don't know if he's thinking about opting out or he already has. But I was like, his wife is pregnant and he's gonna have a newborn any minute now. I would opt out too. And it's not like they're gonna pay him anyways. If you opt out, you don't get paid. It's like any one of us. If you don't go to work, you don't get paid. It's the same thing.
Now, where it gets kind of great for me is when the fighting between the Players Association and baseball started. This was initially about the money and the number of games being played, prorated salaries. And now that we have the 60 games agreed upon, now the players are coming and saying, well, I really don't feel safe about going to work. And you can feel safe, or you can feel unsafe not going to work, or going to work, whatever. You can feel not safe going to the ballpark, taking part in your sport.
Right.
But to the outside fan right now, it looks like the Players Association is just having sour grapes that once again they got taken advantage of by baseball.
Yeah, the whole thing with the MLB has been just kind of one nightmare situation after another, because obviously, the MLB didn't even, I don't know if the Players Association didn't want 60 games anyways, and at the end of the day, Rob Manfred was just like, you're getting 60 games, and that's what we're doing. And then another problem that I have in regards to this is someone like David Price, who is one of the players, tweeting, tell me where and when, and I'll be there, and then deciding afterwards to opt out. So it's like, what changed? Were you just annoyed with the MLB? So you were like, it's not us that are the problem, and this is like an all of a social media act because of that. So I don't understand what the thinking is, and I just honestly don't think anyone wants to play at this point. I really don't. I don't think the players want to play, and I don't think the owners even care at this point if they play or not.
Now, again, just for the record, we continue to say family first. We agree that safety first when it comes to this stuff before we start having our social media blowing up. And
the MLB has become, it's like politics at this point. It's like you say one thing to get what you want, and then as soon as you get it, it's the other thing. It's the NBA and the NHL did such a, like, I'm not saying that there won't be problems with what they're doing, but their commissioners handled this situation a whole lot better than Rob Manfred. And Rob Manfred looks like a complete moron right now. Roger Goodell looks fantastic compared to Rob Manfred right now. So he's got to be worried about his job.
All right, let's get back to on-field now, kind of here. Talking about Rodriguez's positive tests, how is this going to affect the Red Sox in a season where it's 60 games, so every single game means something?
It's sad because going into the season anyways, even before the coronavirus and any of this stuff happened, pitching was going to be the Red Sox number one concern. And the thought that Erod was probably going to be your most consistent and most reliable starter on the team because Chris Sale is out with Tommy John. Nathan Eovaldi has had Tommy John twice and is continuously getting injured. I don't really know much. Like Martin Perez had a good stretch of games last season, but he's new to the team, and with reduced workout time, you don't exactly know how in tune. I mean, with a pitcher, you really don't have to be in tune with the team as long as you're pitching well. But it's still a question mark because he's a new guy. And then after that, they have, I don't think, any starters. I guess Brian Johnson might be a starter or he's an opener. I don't really know. So now that Erod is not going to be joining the team for who knows how long because of the virus, it's just the future for the Red Sox looks incredibly bleak. You know, everyone's saying because it's 60 games, it could be anyone's season. And that's true. But if you don't have a one solid pitcher on your rotation, your season's over already. Like I don't see the Red Sox winning more than 30 games this year. I really don't. And it's sad because as a Red Sox fan, I would love to see them compete and win, but I know that their offense is pretty decent, but without at least one decent pitcher, I don't see how it's going to happen.
So there are some things that work with a shortened season like this. One thing is you don't have to go to your normal 5-man rotation. There are some days off sprinkled in. So realistically, you can go with 4 starters and maybe an opener if you have 15, 16 games in a row.
Right.
Like you said, for the Red Sox, only one returning pitcher that we know of right now, Nathan Eovaldi. We're still waiting for Eduardo Rodriguez. But you think about some of the numbers from Sale, Porcello, and Price, who obviously aren't with the team anymore.
Yeah.
That's 429 innings of pitching out the window, 27 wins out the window, 489 strikeouts out, and more importantly right now, 79 starts.
Yeah.
Realistically, the Red Sox didn't have the best bullpen in baseball, anywhere near the best bullpen in baseball. So you could maybe use a couple of pitchers to string together some opener games, but the pitching staff, even before this coronavirus situation came in and the season got shortened, the pitching staff was always going to be kind of a focal point.
Yeah. They're down to the bare minimum at this point. Especially like even before we found out that Erod had coronavirus, the 4th starting position, no one knew who was going to be there. So now we're down to 3. I think I saw something earlier that listed Oh God, I can't remember his name now.
So right now, your starters right now would be Nathan Eovaldi, um,
Martin
Martin Perez, and Colin McHugh.
Colin McHugh. I did not. I don't know why I kind of forgot about him. I forgot that they had picked him up in this last offseason. So when I saw that, I was kind of I was like, oh yeah, that guy. But again, it's like I think wasn't he a bullpen guy before he was here?
I would have to check on that, but
I think he was in the bullpen for the Astros before he came to Boston. I could
still,
be
that's
completely wrong, but I I don't so but now he's a starter. I have no idea. I really have zero expectations for this Red Sox pitching staff.
well, even with the new pitcher coming in, you still have to try and figure out the pitches that you want to throw with the pitching coach and the catcher. So that still could be another problem for pitchers like Perez and McHugh.
Right.
So let's talk about the schedule. The new schedule came out. The Red Sox will be opening with a 3-game series against the Baltimore Orioles at Fenway Park. Then they have 2 against the Mets, and then they go to Citi Field to take on the Mets for 2 there. They play the
Yeah.
Yankees twice, or excuse me, 10 times, and 7 of those games take place in the Bronx. Obviously, no fans allowed, so maybe that takes part of it out of
Yeah.
the conversation here. But the Red Sox also play games against the NL East, so that's games against the Phillies, the Braves, the Nationals, the Marlins. Overall, what do you take away from the new 2020 schedule?
The New York thing, I immediately so before they announced that the schedule officially, like the morning before, Jared Krabs from Barstool posted that he had a bad dream that was what happened, and I was like, so he clearly had the schedule beforehand, but that seems ridiculous. That it's not like it's New York and Massachusetts are a lot different when it comes to the virus at this point, because I'm pretty sure Massachusetts, I think, is at this point the lowest rate of positive testing, but they don't even have to fly to New York. Technically, they can drive there. So I don't know why, and no one's sharing a stadium, so that's not an issue. Why does New York get so many extra home games? It doesn't make any sense. But whatever. That's just me as an angry Red Sox fan saying that. Realistically,
Oh,
because you said like there's going to be no fans, I don't know if they'll pipe in audio like the English Premier League is doing, and I don't even know if those are actually being piped into the stadium or is just being piped into the broadcast. All right, so it really doesn't actually matter. There's going to be you're not going to get booed at Yankee Stadium, but I also think sometimes those boos are kind of an extra jolt to your performance. I don't think it's like a negative effect. I think especially with a rivalry, right, like the Red Sox and the Yankees, being booed at Yankee Stadium as a Red Sox, it's kind of like fulfilling because they hate you enough to actively boo you. You must be a good player, right? But the rest of the schedule, I baseball.
that's a good explanation. Baseball.
I just can't care about baseball this year, and that's terrible because baseball has always been, and the Red Sox have always been one of my favorite sports and teams, but it's just one of those things that I'd rather it just not happen at this point. I really want basketball and hockey to come back.
So for the MLB schedule, obviously it was very tough to try and get all these games together. You had to try and figure in travel. And for me, the big thing to look at here, the fact that the Red Sox have to go to Tampa Bay a couple of times, they have to go to Miami, which, as we mentioned earlier, is a hot spot for this virus. Now, maybe that'll change by the time we get to that juncture of the season, but still, the NL East is nothing to sneeze at. Obviously, you had the Philadelphia Phillies, Atlanta Braves, who are 2 very talented teams. Hello, you had the Washington Nationals, the defending World Series champions. So this is a very tough schedule for the Red Sox. Now, luckily for them, they don't have a lot of travel to worry about. I mean, you're going to Baltimore, New York, Georgia maybe. So it's not like you have a West Coast trip figured in there.
Right. And with the Florida things, I was kind of surprised that they're actually letting those teams play in their home stadiums because of everything that's going on in Florida. And obviously MLS and the NBA are going to, or actually the NBA is there now. They're all in Orlando, but like it's a bubble situation. We don't know, like these, I don't know what they're doing with these players. Are they quarantined when they're not playing?
So
because
that
we're not doing a bubble with MLB where they're going to be traveling. So when they're not playing, are they just going to be walking around and getting infected with this? I don't know.
so this was actually brought up on one of the 98.5 shows, Zolak and Bertrand. They said that these players have a lot of energy. They can go out and they can go to a
Yeah.
bar, they can go to a restaurant. And I mean, let's be honest, we go out, we go to restaurants, we go to the store, we go to other places, and these players will as well.
Yeah.
They're just as um, susceptible to this virus as you and me are.
Right.
So baseball originally, when their plan first came together, they were going to play in Arizona and Florida, and that was going to be it. So I
Right.
don't know where we came to the point where we're going to have these teams traveling back and forth up
Yeah.
and down the eastern seaboard. To me, if you're the Red Sox, I would have some type of security force to make sure these players don't leave the hotel. And it's
Right.
even tougher to do when you're at home because, or,
Yeah.
wherever you're living in Boston, because now you have to make sure these players don't leave the house. You have to make sure their families don't really leave the
Right.
house and go into bad situations as far as the coronavirus.
I just don't see this working out. They might start the season, but I think if there's any season that's going to end prematurely because of the virus, it's going to be the MLB. I really truly do think that.
Now, for some weird reason, the Red Sox had this pipe dream that some fans will be allowed into the ballpark between 5 and 10,000, depending on which stadium you're talking about. So, if you were able to get into Fenway Park as a fan, would you go right now?
I really wouldn't. As much as I love being at Fenway, and I think I genuinely like being in the atmosphere of Fenway more than I actually like watching the game itself. But it's pretty filthy on a normal day. So I just don't see myself wanting, especially because at Fenway Park, it's the seats are about this big. Everyone's on top of each other. You can barely see anyways because there's poles all over the place. Like I love Fenway, but it's not a great viewing baseball stadium. So I think I'm going to sit this season out. I haven't missed a summer at Fenway Park since I was about 8 years old, so it's kind of sad. But I think I'm going to be way better off sitting in my bed and watching it on Nessun than going to Fenway Park this year.
Yeah, I would pass on this year too
Yeah.
because you think about just to get into some of these places now, you have to have a temperature check, you
Right.
have to go into some thermal device, when you cross through. You have
Yeah.
to answer questions. You have to wear a mask, wear gloves, hand sanitizer, and all that stuff.
Right.
At that point, it's just not worth it.
No.
Like you said, you go to the ballpark for the atmosphere, and we may dump all over Sweet Caroline, Dirty Water, the Wave, Let's Go Red
You dump
Sox,
over that.
Wally.
I do not dump over. Why would you dump over Wally? What did Wally ever do to you?
I'm just saying, people make fun of the Red Sox for Pink Hat fans. That was
You're
an
a
eye
big
roll in
Red
case.
Sox fan.
I'll admit that. I take advantage of those years when they
Oh.
can't get into the playoffs and they sell the seats on Pesky's pole for $10. So
Yeah, I think, remember, we were in February. We were like, oh, tickets are so cheap to the Red Sox this year. We're going to go all the time.
now we went just as much as we probably would have anyways.
Yeah, probably. Well, I was going to go, but whatever. Not anymore. I
All
mean,
right.
we're not even going to work at this point. Most offices, there's like 5 of us in the building at the most, and we're not going to work. Why would we go to Fenway Park?
Time out.
What?
We're working right now, okay?
We're
we
working.
are providing
We're not going to work.
we are providing content for BTV, okay?
Right.
That,
we are working. We are not going to work. I have like that's different. We're not going to the studio. I guess. Does that make you feel better? Is that better, John?
well, it doesn't make me feel better because now I'm sad that I don't get to leave my house.
Well, yeah, I guess.
All right, so we're not going to Fenway Park in person, but I guess you could say there's a cool marketing ploy. We're going to end with this here. A few teams are starting to sell cardboard cutouts of fans, and it costs $49 to $129. The Oakland A's are doing this. The Giants are doing this. The Royals are doing this. And what will happen is the fan that buys the cardboard cutout of themselves will be put in a seat. I'm guessing the price range depends on where you can actually be seen on TV. Now, here's the cool thing. If a foul ball hits your cutout and takes your head off, you get the foul ball mailed to you. So this is actually a real thing.
I did not know about that. That's actually kind of funny.
So it could be cool. You can watch a cardboard cutout of yourself, and it looks like the carnival game where the ball comes at your head. So two things here: good idea or a bad idea? And would you buy a cardboard cutout of yourself for Fenway Park?
I think from the owner's perspective, this is a fantastic idea because there are going to be people that want to do this, and there are going to be people who pay the extra money to get closer to the field. I guess, I don't know, and they're going to obviously lose a crap ton of money this year because they can't actually sell tickets or concessions, and God knows a French fry at Fenway Park is about $80, so they're going to be losing out on a lot of money. I would 100% not do this. $50 to put my face in Fenway Park is ridiculous, and I also don't want my face anywhere to do with that shit box of a team this year. I really don't. Just okay. I don't want to be associated with it at all.
Okay, here's the thing. During this pandemic, we've all bought stupid things in our life, okay?
I refurnished my entire bedroom during this pandemic.
Okay, so we've already spent a bunch of money during this pandemic.
Yeah.
What's another $100 to have yourself at Fenway Park?
No, like I said, I don't want my image associated with that team.
Okay, what if they turn it around and you have an Angels in the outfield type of turnaround?
Then I'll look dumb, but I'm still not going to do it.
All right, so for me, good idea, and yes, for sure.
If Fenway Park offers this, you're going to pay $150 to put your face.
Not $150, but I mean, if you got a $50 part and you have a shot at getting a foul ball, why not?
Oh, God.
I bought baseball bats for that much anyway, so why not?
I guess that's true.
Well, thanks for watching this financial episode of Out of Bounds on how not to spend $50 to $130. For Mary Evers, I'm John Luck. Thanks for watching.